a flop on the field. For the Celtic board, globe-trotting fundraiser for their last chance plan, a brand new no-cost stadium. As battle begins for the heart and soul of Celtic, the final whistle for the boardroom old guard may be just 2 weeks away. Celtic fans have had enough. Angry and frustrated with their team's failure on the field, the bunker mentality of Celtic's beleaguered board. The supporters have no doubt who is to blame for their club's own goals. The Celtic board, they say, must go.
As things stand at the moment, Celtic have gone, I would say, much further down than most of the directors realise or care to admit. All they have to do any Saturday is go out and stand in the terracing. They would know the depth of feeling there about this club and how the supporters feel it's gone down.
Discussion and argument, fine. But some of the statements that are getting made and some of the actions that are being taken are ridiculous. They're foreign to Celtic. And we want to get back to the old days when it used to be a family club. We want a team, a ground, a board and a management worthy of the name Celtic FC. It's our only interest.
You have to say now that David Smith's on the board, they must have something, because he's not exactly an innocent when it comes to business. But before that, I would say that the business acumen in the boardroom at Celtic Park was not very good, practically nil if you like. But football's a funny thing. There's no guarantee that even with David Smith being there, an experienced businessman, a wheeler and dealer, there's no guarantee that he'll do that in the football world, because it's strange. There's so many variables. And at the end of it, you're always dependent on what your team does.
Fans off to see if their team can do the business against Partick Thistle in the first home game with Lou Macari. But is a new manager enough?
An injection of hard cash is what is needed. It's been proved Liam Brady had to sell players before he was able to buy players, and Lou Macari has been told the exact same thing. There is no hard cash for him to spend to extend his pool of players.
Our directors are sitting there, taking money out of the club, putting nothing into it out of their own pocket, and are looking for a fairy to come along with a magic wand. And this just don't happen in the present day.
But it's a grand old team to play for, and it's a grand old team to see. And if you know the history...
Today, the grand old team stands at the crossroads. By next season, its time run out. A takeover team waits in the dugout with plans to redevelop Celtic Park. An extraordinary general meeting of Celtic shareholders will decide whether they take control. The glory days can return, say the challengers, with a hard-headed businessman in charge.
I'm not a Santa Claus. I'm an investor, and I expect to get my money back eventually. This is not a donation. I think Celtic can be made into not only a successful football team, but a successful business. My plan is to raise and inject £17.9 million into Celtic Football Club. Use the money as a platform to invest a total from including from other sources of in excess of £30–35 million towards redeveloping the park, rebuilding the business, solving the financial problems, and improving the side.
In your view, is there an alternative?
There's an alternative which could be a declining, tiny, debt-ridden soccer club with a problem, without a stadium and with players leaving and so on and so on. And we've seen for 5 years what's gone on. Celtic continuously dealing from weakness, whether it's selling players in a fire sale, running after a manager and paying any price, who knows. But all the other things they've been doing is not from a position of strength. And I think the losses they've sustained over the last 3 years, which are over £5 million, show that they're continuously getting weaker. And let me say another thing. The people who are the directors now say they're only trustees. They're only custodians. If they're not there for personal benefit, fine. I'm saying, right, well, let's get the best thing for Celtic Football Club, because that's what it comes down to. What is the best for Celtic Football Club?
The view of the so-called rebels, rejected by the board. The rival New Deal plan from the Celtic Old Guard amounts to no less than the provision of a brand new super stadium at Cambuslang at no cost to the country, a prototype for football's future.
We're inventing the wheel. Nobody has ever gone out and put together a series of debt-free stadia and developed a network of debt-free stadia across a single country before. It's not just Celtic's ground. You know, I have to present this. This is a multi-purpose facility for Glasgow Cambuslang, of which Celtic is the anchor tenant. There's a lot more going to be going on at this facility than Celtic Football Club.
Celtic Football Club has problems. A massive overdraft, no trophies in 4 years, disgruntled fans staying away. But with an extraordinary general meeting due on the 26th of this month, the Celtic board has been drip-feeding good news to the fans. The Lou Macari signing, runs the story, will lead to on-field success and the triumphal return of fans through the turnstiles.
If you look at the attendance figures for recent games, you'll see there is a boycott going on. Not an organised boycott, but there are 10, 12, maybe up to 20,000 fans out there who do not go to the football, who do not go to watch Celtic on a Saturday anymore. And many of them will tell you that they will not go back to see Celtic as long as the Celtic board, as it's presently constituted, remains.
The fans feel outraged and ill-used by the board and plan more pressure, plotting how best to bring it about.
The very thought of a boycott, for me, I would never ever agree with it. Up until the last few years, things have really just got to a certain point where it's just come to a breaking point where really, I don't think the board understand just how sick and tired we are. We've followed them faithfully for years. We're not some hooligans from out with the club. We're season ticket holders. We love this club. No, the question of a boycott is the only thing we can really do to hurt them in the pocket. And if it comes to it, as a last resort, I would support it.
A boycott and Celtic's gate receipts will slide. Can the bank maintain its stiff upper lip?
I found the bank stance quite amazing. I mean, I think that if you and I decided to open a business in Glasgow and we approached the leading bank and we said, oh, by the way, we haven't got a business plan and we haven't got any accounts and we haven't got any budgets and we haven't got any projections and we haven't got any forecasts, but could you please lend us £2 million? They would just laugh at us. But that was the situation that the Bank of Scotland were allowing Celtic to trade under.
Is the bank going to lend them more? I mean, the basic problem they have at the moment is that they have obviously pushed up the amount of money they're spending in wages, pushed up the amount of money they're spending on signing on fees and transfer fees to try and bring that success. They've been spending more, really, than probably they even strictly justify in terms of the turnover that they were actually getting.
I would suspect that Celtic are they've gone as far as they can with the current overdraft facility. And I think the banks have said to them, look, enough is enough. We've now got to start looking at ways of getting this money back.
Step forward Fergus McCann, Scots-born Canadian millionaire, and his right-hand man, Brian Dempsey.
You can go first because you're the leader.
McCann is pledging £10 million of his own cash to get control of the club and, he claims, save the day.
We put together a plan which will generate the kind of cash that no British football club has ever seen before. It will also mean, obviously, there are going to have to be some changes. There's going to be some changes in the people running the club, and I expect it to be on a full-time basis. I'm not denying that. So now we've come to this point where there is a final meeting, a decision has to be made, yes to this capital, or no, up or down.
If the club sticks with the old regime, the future?
It's a decision that they have to make, but they have to make that decision knowing there are two other bigger decision makers outside the room. One is the Bank of Scotland, who control all its assets, and the other is the supporters who control its entire income. They are the people who also will be making a decision, either to support the club or not, financially.
When Fergus McCann first approached Celtic's board, plan in hand, 5 years ago, they simply wrote him off.
They all said, oh no, just forget Fergus. Fergus is an eccentric. We know about Fergus, but just forget him. He's not a player in any of this. And here you are 5 years down the line, Fergus is a major player. But that, I think the arrogance of the Celtic board came through there. You know, when he said, forget him, he's not a player, you know, he's just an eccentric old man, we've ignored him.
Multi-millions notwithstanding, Fergus McCann fails to cut a fine figure for the fans. His offer for the club went in just after Celtic lost 1-0 to rivals Rangers. Superb timing, but he didn't know the game was on.
He comes here and it's the day after a major semi-final between the Old Firm and doesn't realise it's taking place. You know, things like that's not good. That upsets everybody on his side. It upsets the fans.
The board, though unwilling, can no longer ignore Fergus McCann, but will neither deal with him nor tell him why. They decline to be interviewed by Focal Point on the present crisis.
What we have to find out, and we've not been able to find out so far, what are the stumbling blocks? We've removed everything that we've seen, and we don't see any more. Where are they? What are they?
Writ large in the mind of the Celtic board is the fact that the McCann rescue package comes with former Celtic director Brian Dempsey built in. Dempsey was mysteriously bundled off the board 3 years ago. Fellow director Michael Kelly was ecstatic.
There's too much bad blood coursing between Michael Kelly and Brian Dempsey. And I don't know if they can work together. Michael Kelly has already said he couldn't work with them. Too many bad things have happened between them. Now, the sad thing about this, of course, is that while they play these politics and there's all this dialogue behind the scenes, and the club slides further down, and it's as though some people, there are not enough people on both sides too concerned about the supporters and all of this.
The ebullient Mr. Dempsey was ousted from Celtic Park when the board there went sour on a proposal to move to Rob Royston. They had learned that Dempsey had bought himself a company, Nardlaw Limited, had bought for it land at Rob Royston adjacent to the proposed Celtic site, and all while still a director of Celtic.
That time, Nardlaw, you're now talking all about the same time, about August or September of about 1990, and the land started to be, Nardlaw acquired the land, and we then, I as Strathfield, acquired the shares in Nardlaw and in Bernlaw, which would then go into Celtic Football Club.
But in nowhere in company documents does it say that Celtic Football Club or any part of it is the beneficial owner of Nardlaw.
It may not be in company documents. I'll tell you something else that's not in company documents if you want to know. At a meeting in September, I told them at a board meeting that I would take the land, that we would give them the stadium site for nothing, and we'd split the profits if they were even scared to put any money in at any time into a completely no-lose situation. These things are never shown in the minutes because detailed minutes were not kept of meetings. And it is totally spurious at this stage, 3 years down the road, to say Brian Dempsey was in Rob Royston purely to make money. Totally spurious. And I challenge you to ask Mr. McGinn, Mr. Farrell, or even Kevin Kelly in these matters, because they knew exactly what was happening. And anything other than that is not true.
The first obligation is imposed by a specific statutory provision. And Mr. Dempsey, to comply with that, should have declared his interest in Nardlaw and in the arrangement at the first board meeting at which the matter was discussed. That's a board meeting of Celtic.
Now, I've already asked you twice, and I think we got diverted onto other subjects, but I really would like to take an answer from you on this.